Now there's been a breakthrough at Vistara after a couple of days when we've seen more than 50 flights a day being cancelled. There is a chance of a breakthrough. Sources in the management of the airline tell us that they expect normal operations to resume by the weekend. But there's another side to the story as well, which we'll come to in a moment. But here's what the management is saying, because I did speak to some pilots also who have had problems with the management. As far as the management is concerned, normal operations by the weekend, flight cancellations have been halved. There's been a virtual town hall between pilots and the management. The management has promised pilots a course correction. They've promised improved rosters for pilots and tangible changes in pilot rosters by May. Why is the issue of rosters important? I'll tell you in a moment. But almost 100% of the pilots, the management says, have accepted the new contract. The pilots have been promised growth once the merger with Air India completes, and that there will be opportunities to earn more once the merger is complete, and that there was no protest by pilots in this virtual town hall with the management. So that's one side of the story. But we've also reached out to pilots who have been affected by this crisis, and they say that it's not just about money, it's not just about the contract. While yes, the airline will get the normal number of flights, or pretty much the normal number of flights by the weekend, and the immediate crisis may be resolved, pilots are overburdened because of flight crew shortages. Everyone is just tired from flying. Pilots are upset at the new contract, but they knew that it was coming. Pilots are flying at the limits of what is allowed. There are health concerns in the airline. Pilots are exceeding their sick leaves and ending up with leave without pay. Pilots have been complaining of fatigue issues. And Vistara, in the case of complaints by pilots on the issue of rosters and on fatigue, does not believe its own pilots, preferring instead to follow some guidelines set up by software. So a couple of important issues over there. I'm joined by Sanjay Lazar, who's been tracking this very closely. Also, Mr. G.S. Bawa, who was formerly with the Airports Authority of India and with the Air Travellers Association. Thanks very much for being with us. Sanjay Lazar, let's look at the second part, because the issue of flight safety is important. We were talking about money, and that is an issue. But do you believe that ultimately the pilots who've had concerns, this has to do with pilot fatigue, which is the most important concern?
Good evening, Vishnu. Thank you for having me again. And first of all, I think congratulations should go out to the management of the Vistara for having made the attempt.
Yes.
And reached out to the pilots. It's a great first step. I know the pilots are not happy with what actually transpired during the town hall today. But, like they say, small steps, you cross many miles. Safety is a major issue, absolutely right. Fatigue, and I think two of the points that the CEO touched on in his virtual town hall was, one was fatigue, one was poor rostering. And the third was, we haven't recruited enough or trained enough, therefore we're stretched too thin. And that is evident by, the amount of 787 pilots you've had, the amount of transfers you've done from Air India to Vistara. And I'm glad that, when you come out like this and speak openly to your people, there's definitely going to be positive moves. It's a concern that there is a fatigue factor, or, he says people were too tired to fly so much. And I think they need to look at it, maybe curtail some flights, ensure everybody's getting enough rest. I know they won't breach DGCA rules, because the DGCA keeps a very sharp eagle eye these days. But safety is an issue, and unless this bigger issue is sorted, Vishnu, I believe that stress is going to play a large part in the pilot's mind. After I was on your show yesterday, and I was fortunate to have, also had a chance to interact with, a former HR head of Air India, and he told me that, what is the cost of pilot? What are they asking for? 1 lakh a month. There are 50 of them. And that would be, about 6 crores a year. They've had 100 flights cancelled. Compensation itself would have gone over 10 crores. So that was a huge, learning for me on how this should have been tackled better. He said, look at the other parameter. Average insurance cost per pilot today, loss of license, is 2.5 crores. If you're losing 30 of these pilots or 50 of these pilots, or even 20, you're losing 50 to 60 crores of assets. So you need to look after them and talk to them like they've done, in a right step. I think fatigue is something that we need to look at very deeply, and I'm certain that they will. And I'm certain, the minister, the ministry, the DGCA are keeping an eagle eye on rostering as well as utilization.
Mr. Bhawa, the point that pilots are mentioning is that it's not as if they're coordinating together. It's not as if they have a union. They don't. Everyone is just tired from flying. And in the case of this particular airline, the allegation which has been made is that they are unable to take their leave when they need it. They have to schedule their leave in the beginning of the year. In other words, the system is so stressed that if a pilot has to take leave, then the system starts falling. It starts to collapse in terms of pressure on the airline, and therefore pilots need to keep working. That's how they end up falling sick. Sometimes they need to take that sick leave because they have urgent commitments as well. Is this a larger concern about an industry going beyond Vistara, where there are too few pilots and yet the industry itself is growing massively? Mr. Baba, will you unmute yourself?
All right. I am audible now, I hope.
Yes.
You are asking a very important question, and I have always believed that two P in aviation are very important. First P is pilot, and second P is passenger. Both are two wheels are very important in synchronization. Pilot should never be under stress, and passenger should not be stressed. And unfortunately, passenger is meant to be stressed, and pilots are now also being stressed. So then, if both are under stress, the system is going to face the music. But I have always believed that Vistara is a full-fledged airline. And if we look at their press releases a few days back, they were talking of strengthening the connectivity with France, and they have been awarded the best airline at the air show. And government has come into being, and government has mandated the bylaws for compensations of passengers. We are happy as a passenger that the government has put the DGCA for day-to-day monitoring, and there is a compensation laws are in place. So where is the problem? We need to look beyond what we are able to see. We have to read in between the lines. This crisis is not because of shortage of pilots, not because of any issues, but management issues. That's what I stress, management issues.
Sure. I
Pilots
just
should
wanted
not
to go
be
back to
stressed.
Sanjay. Sanjay, it's also true that there are upwards, as I understand it, of 5,000 pilots, trained pilots in this country who are unemployed.
Yes.
So why are they not actively trained by airlines? Their flight, their airworthiness, their flight, their insurances and their licenses renewed if required, and why are they not brought back into the fold?
Excellent point, Vishnu. Most of these 5,000 odd pilots unemployed are CPL holders who are struggling to get in onto type-rated aircraft. Everybody wants a 737 or a 320. They either don't have the money, or they're going through cadet programs which cost a crore and a half today. And here's something radical that I'd use your show to reach out to, even the ministry. If you're bringing in one expat pilot into the country, please make sure you get 10 of these CPL kids in some airline. Because this is, we talk of Make in India, Mera Bharat Mahan, and great. I mean, we want foreign talent to come into our country. But if we have 5,000 unemployed CPL pilots who are not getting jobs for years on end, and they're working as dispatchers and stuff, use them, because we're growing at a rapid pace in this country. We have 2,000 new aircraft coming in. We have 250 airports in the next 5 years, as the minister, has rightly said. Who is going to service these aircrafts and these airports? We can't keep bringing in expats. So let's start training our own kids. Let the airlines start, building training centers, bringing in these kids. I know, Air India has just started a cadet program. I know Indigo has had one. It's time to accelerate that. If you want to bring in foreign aircraft or foreign pilots or, on lease, make sure you bring in Indians as well. For every one of these guys, train 10 of our kids, and you won't find this shortage in a year or two.
Okay, Mr. Bawa, you had a point. Briefly, sir, go ahead.
I just wanted to flag the issue with a lot of efforts of the government and all the stakeholders. We have come out of the COVID-19 situation, which we were all struggling that the traffic should come back. Now we have come back, and everybody should put in all resources that we should not lose. And the peak season is knocking at our door, and the prestige of the airline is very important. And they should ensure that no hurt is done to the prestige of the airline, because these are very critical issues. Once the passengers lose trust in the airline is going to lose for a long time. And I am very happy they have flagged the right issues. Yes, pilots needs to be trained. Rather, we should have a bank of pilots, not only the CPL holder. CPL is just an entrance level. Once we know that we have ordered 100 aircraft, we have ordered 500 aircraft, then where are they? Who will develop them? So we should have a bank of pilots for different categories. So that is very important. And then I always say the passenger should also look for effective messaging, because the real problem at the junction is the airline should have one-to-one contact with their passengers, and inconvenience to passenger should be minimized.
Right.
Cancellation is okay, but inconvenience to the passenger should be minimized, and there are tools, effective AI tools, automation tools, apps are there nowadays.
Sure. No, so lots
In
of
today's
concerns, obviously, as far as aviation is concerned. Fatigue is an issue, but the crisis, at least immediately at Vistara, seems to be fixing itself. If the management is serious about addressing fatigue issues, the rostering concerns, then hopefully that's an important step forward. Pilots I've spoken to say that yes, they are optimistic that things will improve, but they want to be sure that things improve and stay there in the long run. That's their present concern.